Absolutely. So hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Heart Professional Development Zoom, sponsored by the Heart Association of Student Athletes, or HASA. Tonight's Zoom will be moderated by myself. My name is Madison Lance. I'm the Director of Admissions here at William Penn University and also the advisor to HASA. And also Tyler Price, he's the Assistant Commissioner of the Heart of America Athletic Conference, who is also an advisor to our HASA committee. We're so glad you guys could all join us tonight, and we're pleased to have 4 outstanding leaders from the Heart of America Athletic Conference. We have 2 senior women leaders from the Heart and 2 former Heart student athletes. Before we get started, please make sure you have your Zoom muted. Tyler and I will direct some questions for the panel, and then at the end of those questions, we'll open it up to our student athletes present on the Zoom for any questions that you may all have. So I'd like to take a minute for each of our panelists to introduce themselves one at a time. So we'll start with Sammer. Can you just please introduce yourself, your position and company you worked for, and then what sport you played and what school you attended in the Heart?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me here tonight. And thanks for attending. My name is Sammer Jassar. I'm the Director of Basketball Strategy Analytics for the Milwaukee Bucks. I played basketball at Baker University.
Awesome. And then Connor, we'll go to you next. Just share your position, the company you work for, sport you played in the Heart as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Connor Muff. I am an account executive for Beacon Hill Technologies in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I played volleyball at William Penn University.
We also have 2 Heart senior women leaders with us. Britt, could you just share your position and then what school you work for as well?
Hey everyone, thanks for joining the call tonight. Britt Einerson here from Grandview University. I am the Assistant Athletics Director and Senior Woman Leader, and I played soccer here at Grandview.
And then Molly, same question, just share your position and which school you're at in the Heart.
Sure. Hi, my name is Molly Altorfer. I'm the Associate Athletic Director and Senior Women Administrator at Mount Mercy.
Awesome. And I'll turn it over to Assistant Commissioner Tyler Price to start asking the panel some questions.
All right. Thank you, Madison. And thank you so much to our wonderful panel for taking the time to join us tonight. This is our 3rd annual HASA Professional Development Zoom, and we're just really looking forward to hearing from all 4 of you tonight. So let's start with Sammer. Tell us about your journey, Sammer, after graduation and how you ended up with your current position with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, so graduated from Baker in 2013, and during my time at Baker, I was kind of fortunate enough to meet a Hall of Fame sports agent by the name of Ron Shapiro. He was a baseball agent, so I ended up working with him for 3 years. And while I was working with him, I got my MBA at the University of Baltimore. During that time, I made an emphasis to expand my network within the NBA circles. And I landed an internship with the Minnesota Timberwolves in 2016. Spent 3 years in Minnesota. After that time, I met the GM here with the Bucks and get a job with them. So I'm starting my 5th year in Milwaukee and the 4th as Director of Basketball Strategy.
Awesome. Thanks, Sammer. Connor, how about you? When did you realize you wanted to get in the type of work you currently are in? And did you have some internships while in college, et cetera?
I think that's an interesting question. Definitely had some internships while I was in college. I worked for a company called Demco in Madison, Wisconsin, as part of their business development team, just reaching out to a lot of schools and libraries when it came to like referendums and stuff like that. But I think it comes down to a variety of different experiences when you kind of realize what type of work you want to get yourself into. And I had a lot of great opportunities with a lot of different companies. Worked for Musco for about a year, and then landed my new opportunity here in Milwaukee with Beacon Hill, and all in different industries. But really passionate about the work I do and really enjoying it right now. But yeah.
Molly, next question for you. Tell us about your position as senior woman leader at Mount Mercy, and what are some responsibilities you have in that specific role?
Sure. As an SWA, it's just a variety of responsibilities. Along with my associate AD title, I work in contest management and game administration. So if we host, roughly between 120 to 148 home games a year, I take about a third of those in terms of administrating those contests. making sure everything's going right on game day operations. Additionally, I oversee athletic recruitment within our athletic department. So if coaches have questions about recruiting, strategizing, that kind of stuff can fall on my lap. I also have a lot of responsibilities with fundraising, particularly around our annual fundraising activities. And then I also oversee and have 5 sports report directly to me.
Great. Molly, back to you. How much does this role mean to you personally to serve student athletes within this role as a senior, women's administrator?
It means a lot. I was a college athlete too, not in the NAI, but in Division III, roughly 20, 25 years ago. And, certainly some things have changed among the student athlete perspective, but some things, mental health, balancing coursework, between coursework and playing time and practice. So those things are meaningful to me because I was once in our student athletes' shoes. So if I can be a resource to anyone on our campus, but particularly women and minorities in that SWA role, I'm happy to try and step in and do that.
Great, thank you. Britt, along with your role as assistant AD, you're also the senior women leader at Grandview. What are some additional responsibilities you have in that senior women leader role?
Yeah, so I was actually doing a lot of the roles that I'm currently doing when I was given the title as SWA. The biggest difference is just having an identifiable female presence on campus for our students and our staff. But in addition to that, just helping with hiring on the hiring committee for new coaches and staff, onboarding those new coaches and any staff that we have, communicating regularly with our athletic director for leadership development, and then consulting on major departmental and university initiatives, budget development, also transportation oversight. So we have 3 vehicles that Grandview owns, a bus that holds about 35, and then 2 vans that hold 15 each. So just making sure that the organization of that and maintenance and whatnot is taken care of for that. Being an advocate for our student athletes' well-being, resources for our coaches, just their day-to-day operations, any questions and help that they need. Game administrator, also special events. We have the Hall of Fame and then also the Victors, which is Grandview's version of the ESPYs. So taking a lead on that and running those events. We've hosted quite a few national championships, so we're taking a little bit of a break, but in the past, the tournament director for men's volleyball national tournament and men's wrestling national tournament. And then I think my boss would say gatekeeper would be my most important role that I still hold, just trying to put out fires before they get to him.
And it's neat you're turning over one of those national championships over to Molly, right? With men's volleyball. So staying in the heart, which is neat. Britt, next question back to you. How important is it to you that the NAI has taken this step in requiring all NAI athletic departments to have a senior women leader and administrator in place?
Yeah, this is huge. It's really important to me being a female in college athletics. When I was in school, it was a gentleman's career still. It wasn't something that was popular for female to get into that career. And I was fortunate to have a teammate that went on to grad school and ended up getting a career in collegiate athletics. Her and then my boss, which is our current athletic director, was also very encouraging to go after. It was something I was passionate about. But now 2023, it's a common thing to see female in collegiate athletics and administrative roles as head coaching roles. But I just hope to continue to be an inspiration for those that are looking to pursue that career.
Great.
Sam, our next question to you. How does a background of being an athlete benefit you in your professional career?
It was such a huge help. Some of the things that you grab from playing basketball is it gives you structure, it gives you accountability, teamwork, be on time, a lot of the stuff that are characteristics for things I look for when we hire people here with the Bucks. And it's you always work for something bigger than yourself. Coach Greg Popovich with the Spurs always says, get over yourself, and you always work for something bigger than yourself. So what you do in team sports actually, carry over behind the desk as well. So a lot of, we over me, a lot of teamwork and collaboration. A lot of stuff we do is within teamwork, and you have to understand, your role and responsibility, and work within the team as well. So that all that stuff helped.
Absolutely. And another question for you. So you played the game of basketball for so long growing up and then in college. How do you find ways to compete without the outlet of that organized sport?
I'm competitive in nature. My line of work has allowed me to stay at that. I work in basketball, so we have, I stare at 2 courts every single day, so I get to play, with our staff most of the time. But also, we've won a championship in 2021, and we always compete to win championships. So that makes my work a little bit easier, because you're trying to compete with 29 other teams to try to win a championship or put yourself in a position to win a championship. So a lot of long nights, a lot of long hours, trying to put our roster together, try to go scout. You're on the road, so all that stuff fuels competitiveness within you, to allow you to put the best roster for us to compete. So all that stuff, from work behind the desk to be able to do some sporting activities, even though I don't play anymore, but I still get on the court. So
Thank you. And Connor, a question here from our HASA athletes. How could we utilize skills we learned as athletes to get into the professions we want?
Yeah, great question. I think as athletes, for the most part, we've been playing our respective sports for most of our lives. And I think there's a lot of soft skills that you develop just kind of naturally as you're progressing through your respective sport, whether it's individual or team sports. I think there's so many, skills and things that you just pick up that employers actually look at when they're going through their hiring process, and they really want those individuals to tell them, in those interviews or screenings, like, hey, how did you impact, your sport, your team, your communities, all that thing. And I think as athletes, we're in a great position to do that. So I'd probably just say, our skills that we learned kind of growing up, being involved with sports, and then being involved with college athletics, the time and dedication you put into it, along with your studies, that really stands out to a lot of employers. So just advertise that to try and get yourself in the profession you'd like.
Another question for you. What are some of the life lessons not only you learned from your coaches, but also your teammates as a volleyball player here at William Penn?
Yeah, no, I think for the guys at William Penn and our group specifically, it was the first ever men's volleyball team there. So that was a unique story that we had. But that prompted a lot of developing of new relationships. No one really had any friends when you got there. It was just a bunch of new guys who had to get to know each other. So I think the importance of building and developing new relationships, and being willing to take risks and be open to trying new things, especially during your years of college. I think it's such a unique time you're in. You're not really you don't have to like go make a bunch of money right now. It's you're still learning a bunch of things. But I'd say the biggest thing I learned is being open to building new relationships and kind of building your network. It's kind of what these years are for. So really take advantage of that.
Thank you. Britt, you were a student athlete as well, playing women's soccer for the Grandview Vikings. How did being a student athlete allow you to adapt to life in the workforce, and what experiences playing a sport in college helped with that?
Yeah, I mean, having a career in collegiate athletics, nights and weekends are the norm. So as a student athlete, that was no different. It wasn't a shock to the system, missing out on different events going on the weekends, whether it's tailgating at an Iowa football game or something, that my friends and family may be doing. It's just part of my life and what I do. But also it's just time management. As a student athlete, you have to you put so much time and effort into your sport, and then balancing academics and trying to be the best at everything, and that doesn't change when you go into the workforce. You get a job, and then you start a family, or you buy a home, you have a social life, whatever that may be. You have to still find the balance to be the best you can be in your career, while also taking care of all the other things. I actually find that I'm most productive when we're the busiest, when the seasons are the busiest at Grandview. And that's the same as back when I was playing. Our team GPA was the highest when we were in season, because you don't have a choice. You have to be productive. You don't get to just sit around and be lazy and get distracted. So already having that time management skill that I learned as a student athlete was easy to transition into now being a mom of two, and my husband's a high school basketball coach. So winter season gets really busy, and just already having that time management and prioritizing what needs to get done. And then working with others, as a student athlete, you put together a team, whether it's you have people from all over the country or all over several countries. You have to come together and work to be successful. And if things aren't going well, you work together. And if you don't figure out a solution, the team falls apart, which as competitors, none of us want that to happen. And that's the same thing in the workforce. You're going to have colleagues that you come from all different backgrounds, and you have to find a way to work together to be successful in whatever career that is.
Molly, you are also a former collegiate golfer. How long did it take you to get into the rhythm of life without sports and that college experience?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. That transition was challenging for me. I think it took me a good couple of years. I think as student athletes and all the time that we put in to our respective sports, even before you get to college, that so much of your daily life is driven by that sports calendar, whatever your sport is, and certainly kind of rejiggering your life around not competing. It took me a couple of years. My advice to especially graduating seniors is figure out what's going to fill that void, both that competitive void and the time void. If you're not going to compete in that sport, at an amateur level, leagues, that kind of thing, figure out something, maybe it's another sport, maybe it's a hobby, whatever, that's going to kind of take the place of that sport. Because a lot of my teammates went through kind of significant depressions when our season ended, and then obviously there were other people that were really happy to kind of have that time back and kind of rejigger their life into not being a student athlete anymore. So I think you just kind of have to know yourself, but maybe anticipate that it might be kind of rocky for a little bit.
And as you grow professionally and personally and begin in life, maybe with your family or other things that are going on, work-life balance becomes a priority and is something that athletes have to handle as well. What is some advice you can give our audience on handling that work-life balance as a professional, Molly?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, kind of choose a career or a job wisely. And my advice is don't go after the money, go after something that you love. And hopefully most of you on this call are already pursuing that in whatever academic field you're studying. Because I hate to lead with a negative, but if you really hate your job, your work-life balance is going to be pretty bad, because you're going to be feeling negative, whether you're at work or you're at home or whatever else you're doing in your personal life, because that experience, that potential negative experience at work, will kind of seep into the other parts of your life. So don't chase the money. I truly believe that if you're doing what you love, hopefully the money will follow, because people will see that you're passionate and that you're committed. And Brett referenced being in college athletics. It is significant nights and weekends, but if you love it, that's not really a trade-off, because you're happy to be there and you want to be there because you're doing something you love.
Thank you, Molly. Back to Connor. You're the most recent grad here on our panel. So you graduated, just back in 2022. How did you handle those following months after graduation and not playing your sport any longer? What advice would you give our athletes on how to handle that?
Yeah, definitely didn't touch volleyball for a little bit. Just kind of took a break from that, but I thought it was kind of refreshing almost. I know Molly touched on it, but it's kind of nice to have some of that time back in your life to kind of just go pick up a different hobby or just kind of hang out and not have to worry about being at 5 a.m. lift and then school all day and then practice till 9 o'clock at night. So, but in that is a built-in routine. So I think as Molly said, you have to enjoy the time away from your sport and maybe not playing, but also develop a routine rather quickly once you get out, so you don't you're not just sitting around all day. Because I think a lot of athletes kind of find themselves in that weird area where they've done it for 4 or 5 years in college, and then they graduate, and then they just are like, oh, what do I do? I don't got a schedule planned out for me 5 days a week and the game on the weekend. So yeah, my advice would just be find other things to do. Make sure you're still keeping in shape. Don't let yourself go as soon as you graduate. But yeah, no, I think it's definitely tough. It was tough for me because I think I missed the just being around the team a lot, because I think it gives you almost like a social group to hang around too. And maybe if you're not connecting with them after college or after school, it can be tough. But yeah, develop a routine. Try different things, and yeah, that's my biggest advice.
Sommer, back to you. You have such an interesting line of work. Tell us about some of your day-to-day aspects of your work and how much you enjoy working in what has to be, almost a dream job type job for you.
I'll answer the latter one. It's I love what I do. I really enjoy it. Being back in basketball after I played it for over 15 years. It's brings a lot of joy to me, and I don't see it as a job. You almost see it as a hobby. The day to day is it's different, unique work. I touch a lot of areas in our operation, from scouting on the road, looking at players we can add through the draft, from free agency or trades. So a lot of college games, or a lot of international games, or a lot of pro games with both amateur and the NBA. Helping our GM negotiate hundreds of millions of dollars of contracts. Drafting those contracts, reviewing that stuff. Getting in front of a big board and kind of putting a strategic plan for our GM or ownership of what we need to do short term and long term, and in the roster construction. We deal with contracts pretty much. Last offseason we had 11 free agents out of 18 spots. So kind of how we fill those up. There's rules and regulations with the collective bargaining agreement that we have to abide by and govern by. So a lot of rules that we have to go through and to build our roster. So it's very unique, very challenging, but that what makes it more satisfying. So
great, thank you. Britt, we'll come back to you. Mental health and well-being of student athletes is such a key element for athletes. As a former student athlete yourself and now athletics leader, what are ways you kept your mental health at the forefront during your playing days, and how do you and your department help keep that priority now for current student athletes?
Yeah, to be completely honest, mental health wasn't at the forefront when I was a student athlete, and I can only imagine how much more successful I could have been if I would have made it a priority. Fortunately, we have our athletic success coordinator, Michelle Prangi, has taken the lead on our mental health resources here on campus, even with the heart as well, getting the heart introduced to Wellness U. So it's definitely been a priority to us to normalize the conversation of it's okay to not be okay. And COVID created a lot of mental health issues for everyone, and there's still some side effects of that. But one thing that came out of it is normalizing that conversation of mental health, and having our coaches recognize that and be an advocate for the mental health resources that we have on campus, and just getting people to help as soon as we can, especially those immediate need situations.
Yeah, thank you. Molly, what advice would you give, some current student athletes out there about ways to keep their mental health and wellness as a priority in day-to-day life, especially as student athletes, and also maybe some avenues they could reach out to if needed?
Yeah, here at Mount Mercy, we have a couple counselors on staff. One specifically is actually located in our athletics administration building that we hope is a more kind of a less fishbowl and more private place that our student athletes would want to visit, to talk with anyone if they're having some issues. Just in general, and I echo Britt. 25 years ago, we weren't really even considering mental health when we were student athletes, and so it was just we just kind of took care of each other. And in that same way, I guess I would say that hopefully you have someone on your team or someone outside of your team or a coach or someone on an athletic staff, like a senior women administrator, that you could go to if you're feeling like you're not okay and there are things that need to change. I hope that and I believe that every heart institution has those people in place, even if you're not comfortable kind of talking with a teammate or a friend. I think it's good to recognize what kind of triggers you might have. Certainly you see your schedule and, it's referenced before, you've got 5 a.m. lift and then you've got class and somewhere in there you have to eat and then you're back to practice. So, what are your triggers for each day, or what kind of things are making you nervous, or where you might kind of hit a wall or a cliff, and recognizing those and kind of building some outs or some stops around those to kind of help you manage your day a little bit better. And certainly the counselors on campus, everybody's campus, would be able to help them work with those kind of parameters.
Thank you, Molly. Back to you, Sammer. What are some fond memories that you have of playing at Baker, and what are some life lessons you learned as a student athlete?
Oh man, what a good question. The fond memories, when we made it to the national tournament with Baker for the first time in decades, I think, and that was such a great time for us and bond us together, and such a unique group of guys that came in together and accomplished something that the men's basketball team haven't done in a long, long time. Life lessons. Oh, there's a lot. Definitely a lot. A couple of important ones are, just don't be afraid to fail. Everybody's going to make mistakes. Just don't be afraid to fail. It's how you get up is what defines you. Commitment to excellence in everything you do. It's on the court and how you get your body ready to the game. It's the same thing here. Commit yourself to excellence. Work ethic is your calling card. As hard as you work on the court, is how hard you're going to work to get into our industry. I'm in a competitive field, so where your work ethic is your calling card. Being positive, never quitting. And even on the court, you don't quit. In the office, you're not quitting when it's hard. Be curious about your work, as much as be curious about the game and learning. Don't be afraid to ask questions. You're not gonna know everything. And enjoy the process and have fun. The season is a grind, it's long, and we have, from the trade deadline to free agency and off season, it's a grind. It's a long process. It's long days, long nights, and just enjoying that process, what makes it worth it. So.
Awesome. And another question for you. Do you still keep in touch with your former teammates, coaches, and how important is that to you?
Extremely important. I definitely do. I went to Baker and I met these guys and we were teammates, and I left, they're my family. So definitely keep in touch. I make it a point every year, at least once or twice, to come, scout in Lawrence, and so I get to see the guys in Kansas City. I often come down to the Big 12 tournament, which is in Kansas City at the Spread Center. I think they changed their name now, just to see these guys and go to dinner and relive and talk about these moments and memories. 10, 12 years after we were all together. Definitely stay in touch with Coach Bowd and Coach Dooley. Coach Dooley's still at Baker, and he coached me my last year there, and Coach Bowd is in Topeka right now. So very, very important to me. Really made lifelong friendships doing that.
Thank you. Connor.
I gotta jump off. I apologize, but I gotta jump off. I have a meeting I have to go to. So, but thank you so much for having me. I apologize. I'm not gonna take questions from the students, but thank you both, Tyler and Madison, for this. So, but I apologize. I gotta jump off. So,
not a problem. Thanks, Salman, for being here.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, Connor, the next question for you. What do you wish you knew prior to graduating, and anything you wish you would have prepared for?
Oh, probably a bunch of things. No, I think there's a bunch of things you can talk about. I think one of the biggest things that I wish I knew prior to graduating, or wish I did prior to graduating, was just get a better understanding of the current job market. And you can do that whether you're freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, no matter what. I think the earlier you start interacting with potential employers, or even start applying to jobs you might not even necessarily be qualified for, but just getting a resume in order and start that process. I think it's really important. And I'm sure a lot of campuses here in the heart of America have career services on campus to some degree. I know William Penn does, but taking advantage of those resources, I think, is so huge, because not a lot of students do, and you can tell the students that do. And then I also wish I knew how quick that change was after graduation. So you're completing college, you graduate, it's a big celebration, and then a couple weeks go by, and you're like, all right, you gotta go to work, like, and it's right back to it. So it goes quick, and whether you take a couple weeks off in between classes and the start of your job, or whatever you're going into, I think just kind of realizing how quick that goes is really important. And then I think lastly, I've had now the chance to work for three separate employers, kind of all across different industries, and I can say with confidence that I don't think there is a perfect job. So there's always going to be downfalls to some level of job. There's always going to be things you don't like to do, but the more you can embrace that as a learning opportunity, that's what is going to get you the farthest in your career. So yeah, you might not enjoy, a certain part of your job, but I can tell you that probably 99% of people out there don't enjoy aspects about their job. So yeah, those are a few things that I would say, I wish I would have prepared for or knew before I graduated.
Thank you, Connor. Britt, as our student athletes begin thinking about life after sports in college, what advice would you give to this group?
First of all, don't be afraid to chase after that dream. If it's out of state or out of the country, go do it now. You're young, you have less responsibilities. It's a lot more difficult to move across the country once you have a family. So go do that now. If you're getting a master's degree, don't pay for it. There's so many opportunities out there. Graduate assistantships, or if you're in a career that you can go work for first and then have your employer pay for it. But I'm not saying it's wrong to pay for your master's degree, but just to make sure you're seeking out those opportunities before you just take the first school that you get into. So also stay connected with your coaches, your teammates, your university. You're only there for a short period of time, but it's a crucial part of your life where you're developing into who you are as a person later on in life. And just try to find ways to give back. It doesn't have to be financially, whether it's just coming back to play in the alumni game, or to show up to your sports, if they're playing in near where you're living after school. But just find a way, because you were a student athlete and you know how much that support was from if alumni came back, or their donations, or whatever it is. But you just try to stay connected. And then find a hobby. They all touch base a little bit on that competitive nature, and that doesn't go away when you graduate. You're still going to have that drive to be competitive. So just find a hobby, whether it's finding a lifelong sport, or getting into extracurricular activities elsewhere. Just find something that can feed that, and take care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, because when you're a student athlete, you have people watching after you and reminding you to do this. But once you get out into the workforce, it's going to be on you, and you just got to make sure that that's at the forefront.
Thank you, Britt. Molly, what advice would you give to our group of student athletes, whether it be a freshman just starting out or a senior about to graduate, as they navigate life as a current student athlete and then as a graduate?
Yeah, and some of these will probably be repetitive based on what Connor and Britt said. But first of all, give yourself some grace. Being a student athlete is hard. If it were easy, more people would do it. You're already balancing so many things in your life, so know that you can transfer those skills once you graduate. you'll have the ability to multitask and to plan and to be communicative with other people in a similar fashion that you're communicative and planful now with your coaches and your professors. Other piece of advice, especially for freshmen starting out and anyone currently still in school, don't skimp on the academics. 99% of us are not going pro. You know, we probably don't want to be seeing D's and F's on your transcripts. You know, as somebody that handles eligibility and compliance and just pulled midterm grades, sometimes you I kind of cringe. So just stay on top of it. You know, you're not there at your respective school just to play your sport. You're there to get an education so you can go on and live a meaningful life. So don't skimp on it now. It will kind of bite you in the butt in the long run. And then something I said before, don't chase the money, chase your passion. Hopefully you're able to figure out what you're passionate about. And as part of that, I would say, and I think Connor hit on this too, be curious, ask a lot of questions. People in general, like people in the workforce who've been around, you know, whether 5, 10, 15, 20 years, they love questions. They love it when you're curious and you're asking them about their work. So don't be afraid to job shadow. Don't be afraid to cold call somebody, you know, that you've seen on social media who's in your field. Just give them a call. You know, the worst thing that they're going to say is, no, I don't have time right now. But they might say, no, I don't have time right now, but hey, can we connect next week? And then something also that Britt said, keep your relationships. You'll never know when a former teammate is going to have a job opportunity and you're the perfect person, or a former coach will call you and say, hey, you know, I'm doing this right now. You know, I need somebody with your skill set. So keep those doors open. Just when you graduate and you walk through that ceremony, that doesn't mean that part of your life has to end. You can continue those relationships into the future.
Thank you, Molly. Now we'd like to open it up for our audience for any questions that you guys might have. So if you want to raise your hand or just unmute yourself, we'll go ahead and open it up to any students that are on.
Okay, I have a question. So I think Connor brought it up, but he was kind of talking about like using this, like the fact that you were an athlete to like promote yourself to like employers and stuff. So I was just curious if any of you had any like tips, especially for like jobs outside of athletics, like how to like turn those skill sets into something we can put on resumes or like advertise ourselves with.
Yeah, I guess I can take the lead on that, and if anyone else wants to join in, feel free. But the thing I think is what employers I think are really looking for is people who know how to work in a team environment. And I'm not sure what sports you play again.
Golf.
Golf. Okay. Well, maybe not. You know, there's some team aspect to that, but mostly that's individual, right? But also just to know that you were a part of a group that was committed to something for 4 years and you showed up every time. Just that in itself, I think, you know, I always encourage student athletes. You know, some people are a little shy when it comes to tossing like athletic accomplishments on like a professional resume, and I completely disagree with that. That is a part of who you are. So anything you can, you know, toss on there that is, you know, accomplishments or just being involved with the team, I think is so important. If anyone else has any, you know, further dialogue about that, feel free to join in too.
Yeah, I would say everything, I would back up everything Connor said, and just, you know, putting on there that you're a student athlete speaks volumes. There's a lot of employers out there that look for that because of time management, prioritizing, work ethic, and leadership. If you're a captain, brag about yourself on your resume, because that leadership position is something that employers will recognize, and all that goes into that leadership position, and the accomplishments you have on the team, and being a HASA rep and things like that, that shows leadership and will definitely go a long ways.
And also, Allie, just as like being in the professional world, like I take clients out to go play golf. So like you having golf on your resume, people are going to look at it and be like, oh, well, at least you might be able to go golfing with the group or something, or go, represent us at like a company golf outing or something like that. So it's stuff like that you might not even think about, but it does have like a little bit of an impact. So yeah, that's what I would say about that.
I have a question about that. Connor, do you get paid to take people golfing in that instance?
I mean, technically, yeah. That's technically inside my job, or that's the fun part of the job. You get to take clients out and do fun things, but yeah, no, it's part of the gig. And when you're in more of like a sales role or account management role, you get to do stuff like that. But yeah.
I don't think it doesn't necessarily have to apply to a sales role either. I've worked for several nonprofits, and honestly, if you can play golf, you're going to be one of the first person they're contacting when they've got a foursome in whatever charity event. That can be a really good opportunity to mingle with the CEO or the CFO or the COO, because usually those people in those C-suite positions, there's usually at least one of them in that foursome. And if they know that you have that experience or that you're athletic, you will probably be one of the first calls to fill those slots. And I kind of a tag on to Allie's question. Just recently, I've been talked to a couple employers who only hire student athletes. So absolutely include that information on your resume.
I have a more serious question than just that one, but when it comes to professional growth, how much work and time do you guys put into yourselves outside of what you're doing professionally? Do you have a set schedule? I know you guys talk about your routines and stuff like that. What does that look like in terms of your personal growth that translates to professional development growth?
I'll hit on this a little bit. Routine is really important to me. I find myself most productive when I'm in a routine and taking care of my body and spiritually as well. And so I feel like when I am the most productive, both personally and professionally, they go well together. If I start to find myself getting lazy, whether it's personally or professionally, it does affect the other aspects. So just staying driven in all areas of your life will produce productivity.
Yeah, and just to add on Britt's comments, I think for me personally, when I'm thinking about like where I want to be, 5-10 years down the line, I think being able to kind of look at it in the long term definitely helps. Like I know, if I'm working on getting better in a specific part of my job, or working towards like a certification or a new course I'm taking, it's not necessarily just for like the moment right now. It's taking a look at like the broader view and like, oh, this is going to impact certain things down the line that I may not know right now. But just taking that approach to it, and also I think just keeping yourself busy. I think the biggest mistake people can make is being like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that right now. I just I don't know if I have the time, or it's not something that really interests me right now. But I think just taking a leap of faith and putting yourself out there is really the name of the game when it comes to developing in your career path.
I think too, as a young professional, the more that you are showing a willingness to your supervisor, to their bosses, that you want to continue to develop yourself, that they're going to then put those more and more resources into you. And I would also say a lot of times there are scholarships to attend conferences and that kind of thing. If you're working at an organization that maybe can't afford professional development or has downsized that in their budget, be proactive in kind of figuring out which conferences you might want to attend, or if there are materials that you want to purchase, reading, that kind of stuff. There are ways to pay for that doesn't necessarily have to be paid for by your company.
Any other questions from our audience tonight?
I'll have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering, I know you guys kind of touched on resume building and things like that. Did any of you guys have to work with portfolio building, kind of like discussing like some specific projects or like work you guys have done to go along with a resume. Is that kind of anyone has any experience in that, I guess, too?
I guess I'll go ahead and take a shot at this. Personally, I haven't had to do any portfolio building for my side of it. I think I just included the projects that I've worked on at my various employers just within my resume. But I think the biggest thing when you're talking about projects that you're involved in or really anything, to be as detailed as possible in describing those things, that is like I think when I say this, it's like a job interview, you want to almost brag about yourself the whole time. I know it sounds a little arrogant, but that's the one time I think to do that and kind of be, brag about yourself. And I work in the staffing industry now, and that's what I tell candidates all the time. It's like, yeah, brag about yourself, brag about the things you're involved with, brag about the projects and stuff like that. So I don't know exactly, what your major is or what you might be building a portfolio for, but yeah, just try and say be as detailed as possible in that, in what you're doing.
And I would just say if you have an interview coming up and you know that they're going to ask for it, send it ahead of time, even if it's unsolicited, so they have a chance hopefully to look over it. In that interview process, if you hand, we've been given coaching portfolios when a coach comes for an interview, and we don't have the time to sit there and read it while they're staring at us. So, but if we had time, if we received it ahead of time, could look it over, and it gives us an opportunity then to ask follow-up questions to that portfolio.
All right, any more questions from the audience? Probably wrapping up here tonight.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I guess my question would be like, can you think of a time when or think of an experience you had like in your sport that still carries like or influences the way you approach work to this day? Like for example, like a game or practice or interaction you had with a coach or a teammate?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at this one first, Bryce. Again, I played collegiate golf, and there was one particularly awful weekend of weather where we played, 36 holes on one day and 18 the next day, all in a straight downpour, and literally 45 degrees and rain, and just the goal was to finish and don't quit. And sometimes I think about that, when things get hard, whether it's personally, professionally, yeah, you did that, you didn't quit. You can get through almost anything, because that was a very, very miserable experience. So yeah, just that taught me that I can overcome. It's more mind over matter, and just kind of to persevere.
Yeah, I guess I'll go next here. I'd probably say, with me being at William Penn, just the 3 years I was there with the start of the men's volleyball team, obviously starting from nothing and then going all the way to year 3 to making the national tournament. I think the one match that really capped it all off for me was when we, I know we got some Grandview personnel on the phone too, so I won't be like too negative, but when we were able to beat Grandview, who hadn't lost a match in nearly 4 years at our house in front of our home crowd, it just showed like, we started with nothing. There was no program, and then all the work, all the dedication, all the time you put in, it paid. There's results at the end of it. So, and I think that kind of gave me a bit of confidence to be able to, like, change jobs or pursue a different career now, with my new company. It kind of gave me the confidence to take another leap of faith like that. So I'd probably say, yeah, just knowing, where we started from, being, not even in existence to now knocking off the #1 team in the country who hadn't lost in, 70 games or whatever. It kind of, put it in perspective for me, that journey. So that would be my story about that.
Appreciate you being nice about it. No hard feelings. I wouldn't say there was one specific thing, but the way as a freshman I was referred to work in the office for our athletic director based off of an upperclassman who saw me as a freshman who was carrying herself in a way that was respectful, hardworking, a leader. And so having that work ethic and those characteristics put me in a position where I end up finding a passion for my career and where I'm at today. So how you carry yourself on a team, you never know where that's going to get you in life. That could be where you find yourself in your career. And then secondly, just I remember a upperclassman had told me, you don't always have to agree with your coach, but you have to be respectful, and you have to do what they said. And that's the same when you get in the workforce. You may have a boss that you don't agree with 100% of the time, but you have to be respectful, and you have to, you can have respectful conversations to work through the adversity, but ultimately you have to go along with whatever decision that boss says.
I have a question. So I don't know, you guys some people kind of touched on it, but like most people aren't gonna come straight out of college and get their dream job. So like, how did you guys kind of go about that? And are you in your dream job now, or like, how do you know that is the job that you want to continue to do?
Well, sir, I actually, when I left Grandview, I went and got my master's at a mid-major Division 1. I knew I wanted to be in collegiate athletics. I wasn't sure what level yet. Went there, had a great experience at a mid-major, and then from there I went to a Big Ten school and worked at a football stadium, and I got to experience the major D1. And having those different experiences, I realized by the end of that internship that I had with the Big Ten school that I knew that a small school NAIA is where I wanted to be. So having different experiences, if you're not 100% sure, go out and explore until you find that perfect fit.
Yeah, I think for me, go ahead, Molly.
Sorry. I would say, Kaylee, that just keep in mind that your first job isn't going to be your forever job for most people. 70 years ago, that was probably the case. But I'm a perfect example of that. I was a communication and poli-sci double major. I was thinking about law school. I worked in a nonprofit in communications for about 5 to 6 years, and then got into higher ed, working at Mount Mercy, and actually, kind of rose to the ranks where I was an assistant vice president of communications and marketing at Mount Mercy. Transitioned, left Mount Mercy, had a couple kids, and then was doing marketing and consulting work, and kind of hit a specific age, and I just thought, I don't love this. I don't want to sell marketing anymore to people. And golf has always been a passion, and I remained kind of involved in the golf world in Cedar Rapids, where we are. And I got a coaching license and started coaching in high school, and kind of thought long term, maybe that Mount Mercy women's golf job will open up eventually. It actually opened up about 6 months later. And again, that's why I kind of hit on keeping those relationships open. Because when I worked at Mount Mercy that first time around, I was friends with the athletic director. I hosted him for commercial shoots, and we did some videos and that kind of thing. And I had a lot of respect for him. And so when I saw that women's golf job was open, I reached out to him and just sent him an email and said, "Hey, can we talk about this?" And he literally called me 30 seconds later. And so we had a conversation, and in that time, that was like February of 2021. I'm not coaching anymore. I'm in an admin role. But you never really know kind of where it's going to end up.
And then, yeah, I think Kaylee, for me, I think I'm a good example of someone who's still kind of searching for that opportunity. I graduated college. I was working an internship for a company for 2 years, my junior and senior year at Penn, kind of remotely part time while I was in school. And then I didn't end up getting an offer for them. I thought I was, but they said they weren't going to continue on with me. So I was fortunate enough to get a job at Musco right in Oskaloosa, and worked for a amazing team and great company for about a year. And I didn't necessarily think that was my dream job either. So I reached out to a officiating colleague of mine, and he connected me with where I'm at now, and I kind of got connected through that. So I think just advocating for yourself, I think self-awareness is huge, because I think everyone is like, oh, this is, from outside, people may be like, oh, that's such a great opportunity, but it's not until you actually do the role for, months on end, you're like, oh, is this what I really love? Am I passionate about this? So, and I think, again, while you're young and still fresh out of college, don't be afraid to, say yes to another exciting opportunity. So yeah, I think that would be just my biggest advice there.
Good stuff. Well, I think we will wrap things up tonight. We're recording this Zoom. We will place this on our Heart YouTube channel, and we'll blast this out on social media as well. Madison, thank you so much for helping host tonight. This is the third time that she's helped host this event, and thank you so much for everyone for joining us. This is our third annual Heart Professional Development Zoom, sponsored by our HASA group. So to Samer Jassar, Connor Muff, Britt Einerson, and Molly Altorfer, thank you so much for your time serving on our panel, and we are just so appreciative of you taking the time tonight.
Thank you. Good luck to all the student athletes for the rest of the semester.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Awesome. All right. Well, everyone have a great evening, and HASA group, we will see you next month for our meeting in November. More information to come on that. But again, thank you all so much for being here.